Hi, we're currently hanging out in my van in my 2013 Ford Transit Connect. I just put out my top 10 best movies of 2025. What were my favorite movies of the year? So now we're going to go back a year's time and watch my most anticipated movies of 2025. So see what the 10 most anticipated movies I was looking forward to seeing and see how that compared to my top 10. So check out my van, by the way, real quick. We got my blackout mirrors up here, or my blackout curtains. I got this bed that I've been working on. It's a single bed, but you could pull it out into a double bed if you want to sleep two people. Right now, it's just got a blanket on it. I need to like cut out and sew a mattress for it. And then I got my my windows back there with the curtains on them. Now, my top 10 of 2025 was at number 10. We had Warfare, Predator Killer of Killers, Predator Badlands, Weapons, and Magazine Dreams. And then at the top 5 was The Long Walk, Marty Supreme, Sinners, 28 Years Later, and One Battle After Another was my favorite film of the year. So now let's check out what were the movies that I was most anticipating at this time last year. Now, I didn't do a top 10 list for this. I just sort of did the movies like in the chronological order they were coming out, because I remember I couldn't even think of a movie to put as my number 1 most anticipated. So the first movie as my number 10 comes out on February 21st, and it is The Monkey. The Monkey. This is directed by Osgood Perkins. Now that's crazy to see it on my most anticipated list, because I really did not like that movie, and I couldn't wait for it to end in the theater. I thought there were some funny moments, but I thought it was a huge drop off for Osgood Perkins, who had made The Black Coat's Daughter and Long Legs, these awesome horror films, and then he put out The Monkey that I just didn't think was funny, didn't think was good. I just wasn't into it at all. On March 7th, Mickey 17 comes out. Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17, very similar to The Monkey, where a great director made something that kind of fell off for them a little bit. Bong Joon-ho is an awesome director. Now, Mickey 17 was on my most anticipated list. I didn't actually end up even watching it, but I had enough people who I feel like I have similar taste to, friends that told me Mickey 17 was pretty bad, and told me that I probably would hate watching it, and it was a long movie, and Robert Pattinson seemed like he had an annoying voice, and I was like, I'm just gonna skip this one. Number 8 on my list, which comes out all the way in May 23rd, is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is crazy to see on this list. I remember being really excited for this movie. I really like the Mission Impossible movies. I like Tom Cruise. I hated this movie. I hated watching it in the theater. I couldn't wait for it to end. It was like 3.5 hours long of people just stroking Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt's ego. The whole world is ending, of course, and the only person in the world who could stop the world from ending and save all of humanity is Ethan Hunt. I thought it was a ridiculous movie. I thought it had a stupid title, and I just didn't like it. The title Dead Reckoning, I thought it was just stupid. But I have enjoyed all of the Mission Impossible. Yeah, bad titles. Who's naming these things? Tom Cruise. So I'm pretty. Sounds like something you really came up with when you're 14. It'll be good. The dude's like 65 years old now. I think it's time for him to start some different types of movies. I think he's done the Ethan Hunt thing for. Yeah, once you've done 8 movies in a franchise, it's time to wrap it up. Wrap it up. On June 20th, 28 years. At least with one character storyline. Good to see 28 Years Later on this list. I am a big Danny Boyle fan. I love his films. I love his directing style, and I love 28 Years Later. It came very close to being my number 1 favorite film of the year. I think it's the most underrated movie of the year. Sure. It's one of my all-time favorites. Bowen Temple in 3 days comes out. Super stoked. On June 27th, F1 comes out. This is a movie I didn't end up seeing again, just like Mickey 17. I'm sure I would have liked F1. But, I don't know, just something about the trailers, like something about the reception. I just never got compelled to sit down and watch this 2.5-hour movie. Maybe I'll check it out someday. I do still think I would love to see a Joseph Kosinski directed Star Wars pod race movie, an X-Wing movie, something like that. That would be awesome. Joseph Kosinski, do Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy, get out of there. On July 11th, Superman comes out. Interesting to see Superman on the list. I watched Superman in IMAX opening night. I thought it was entertaining, but it's not anything I'd ever really watch again. I'm just not a big fan of James Gunn in general. His movies just don't really click for me for some reason. I'm just not a fan of his humor and the comedy and the Crypto with the Cape Dragon Superman. That's gonna be awesome. On August 8th, Paul Thomas Anderson has a new film coming out.
Wow, I'm stoked that I had this on the list.
But it's starring Leo DiCaprio.
So it didn't even have a title at the time, so I'm really surprised that I had that on the list and knew it was coming out and everything. Yeah, ended up being my #1 favorite movie of the year. I think a lot of people agree that this is probably the best film we had of the year. And 20 years from now, I think it's going to be remembered as one of the great epics of our time.
Guillermo del Toro has a Frankenstein film.
Interesting to have Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Of course, I love horror, so yeah, that definitely spoke to me when I found out Guillermo del Toro was doing a Frankenstein movie. I ended up liking the movie overall, but I didn't think it was great. I do think it's a little bit overrated, getting a lot of Oscar love and stuff, and the Jacob Elordi kid winning awards over Sean Penn in One Battle After Another is crazy to me. But I like this movie fine, but I didn't think it was great. This is another movie I didn't see. I didn't see Wicked for good. I'll probably check it out when it comes out on streaming. But Wicked, the first one I liked, but it was like 3 hours and I didn't love watching all of it in the theater. Wicked for good, I'll wait to watch at home because everybody said it wasn't as good.
Final movie on my top 10, which will release
What's it gonna be?
At the very end of the year, December 19th, is Avatar Fire and Ash.
Avatar Fire and Ash. I watched this movie. Watched it opening night at the biggest IMAX theater you could go to in Florida. And it was a really cool experience and a visually cool movie. Didn't love it. I still hate Spider. I think Spider is one of the worst characters ever invented for a blockbuster film. And some of the dialogue in these movies is cringy, but they're pretty movies. I'll watch all the Avatar movies as they come out. They're entertaining in the theater. I don't think they're great, but they're entertaining in the theater.
8, I kind of found the dialogue and the writing of the kids kind of
100%.
and painful, and that kid Spider.
The dialogue in Way of Water was a lot worse than the dialogue in Fire and Ash. Way of Water was like painful to watch, like more painful than like the cringiest stuff you could imagine.
So the fact that James Cameron has another movie coming out is pretty awesome. And it's a little bit weird because Cameron has usually a movie come out once every like 10 to 15 years, but now he just had Avatar.
That is interesting. Yeah, Cameron usually does one movie every 10 to 15 years, and he had Avatar 2 and 3 come out back to back, which I like. I like Cameron at this pace. Get these Avatar movies over with, and let's get something else in there, something new. But yeah, interesting top 10 that I had back there. So 2 movies from my top 10 most anticipated of 2025 ended up making it onto my top 10 best of 2025. That was 28 Years Later. That was my #2 film on my list, and One Battle After Another. That was my #1 film on my list. And then number 3 through 10, I wasn't anticipating at all, it seems, but some good movies on there. Thanks for watching. What was your most anticipated movie of 2025 going into the year, and what ended up being your favorite film of the year? Were they the same? Let me know. Peace.